Hello, I'm Rupert Turton, and welcome to the Business Spotlight interviews, where we talk to local business owners about their journey. Today, I'm joined by Daniel Wyke, MD and founder of Wyke Financial, who provide mortgage and insurance based in Corby. Daniel, welcome.
Yeah, hi Rupert, how are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Very well.
So let's start off. The obvious question is just tell us about Wyke Financial and how your journey started.
Yeah, okay. Tried to keep it fairly concise, but started in property in 2004, actually back in a estate agency. Did that for sort of ten years more or less,
Hmm.
and sort of migrated over to mortgages in 2013. Yeah, it was in some ways it sort of goes hand in hand, but actually very, very different industry. Obviously far more regulated and everything like that. Came over to mortgages in 2013, working for a local IFA firm. Did that with them for 3 years, and then set up sort of as Wyke Financial in 2017, really. Which is now 6 years ago, which has gone very quick. But yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell the journey.
Yeah. Okay. What's your biggest learning since you've been a business owner?
I think it's evolved as time's gone on, but I think the two things I would probably say now are that don't be afraid to outsource the things that you're not good at, definitely,
Hmm.
and your time management as things grow and develop. Obviously you've got different times. When I first started up, it was me and a laptop.
Yeah.
So as the teams got bigger, actually more time is taken up with things that you haven't even thought of until they come up in terms of sort of planning and more operational stuff, I suppose, really. So yeah, just have to learn how to do that side of it, because you might have been, as I'd like to think I was, quite a good mortgage broker for a lot of years. It doesn't necessarily make you ready-made business owner or manager. So you're sort of learning all the time on that side of things, really. So I'd say more so in the last sort of year, 18 months, it's really been, yeah, realizing that actually, outsourcing certain aspects of the business saves you so much time and money, even though you're
Yeah.
spending obviously to achieve that. So
Mm. And actually, because the other question, you've got quite a large team now as well. I think you've got 10 people.
yeah, I think we are 10 now. Yeah, yeah. As I say, it's grown relatively organically. I think it was myself and a laptop and obviously a administrator came on board early days, and then first broker was referral from a friend. And it was Carla. She came on part time, and obviously then went sort of full time as we got busier and everything,
Yeah.
and then obviously needed extra support. And yeah, it's just kind of grown from one step to the other, really, as that's happened. So the first few years have been relatively organic, and then last year was the sort of first year where we sat down and said, right, what do we actually want to do, and let's have a bit
Mm.
more of a push.
Yeah.
And when we actually went out, obviously took on two new brokers, which took us up to five. So obviously, once you've got that team, you need the support to go with it. It's really
Yeah.
important, certainly from our model anyway, because mortgage brokers are, it's a very populated industry. There's a lot of us. But you've got very varying degrees of the way the model works behind a mortgage broker. So obviously you've got your big sort of call center operations, which is set up a bit like a McDonald's, and you're quite impersonal, I suppose, in some regards sometimes. You've got your one-man bands where, you're going to see someone and they're going to literally do everything, which is
Yeah.
fine until obviously they get busy, and then you can't hear from them. So we're probably try to situate ourselves in the middle,
Yeah.
where you've got the medium-sized team, but you've got the support behind the brokers, so that the brokers can focus on what they're good at and stay in contact with the clients and everything. But a lot of the running around and the, dare I say, horrible side of the job is being done by the team, the really good team behind us. So.
Yeah. Is that your main differentiator in the marketplace then?
I don't think it makes us totally unique, because I think there'd be lots of other firms jumping up and down saying we do that as well, probably. But it's certainly something that I think locally might set you apart from some of your competitors.
Mm.
So yeah, but it's the other thing that we've been really going all in on in the last probably a year, 18 months, which is obviously partly due to COVID, has been the sort of customer journey, making it very seamless with online technologies and everything else in that way. So these sort of conversations probably wouldn't have been as normal to do over Zoom or Teams or whatever a few years back. But now obviously people are very, very happy to do that. And for us, where we were probably sort of face-to-face broker before, part paper-based, part sort of CRM based, we're now 99% of the time all online CRM. Everything can be done by the client remotely if they so choose. Obviously, if they want to still come in and give us a load of documents, we'll do it that way. But by and large, most people can upload everything, remotely. The whole sort of interview can be done remotely. So it makes us, for us, it takes you away from being a sort of fairly local business, to a potentially national one, where obviously we've still very much got our local client bank, which are hugely valued because it's obviously got us where we are. And we deal with those people over and over again. But at the same point, you can now do a mortgage for someone in Cornwall or in Scotland. It doesn't matter. So yeah,
it sounds like you've spent a lot of time systemizing the business as well then.
Yeah, massively. And again, sort of touching on what I said earlier, I think when you almost can't plan. You think you can plan, but you almost can't plan, because as things get bigger, the systems you've put in place break, and then you need to change them and revisit it again. And then, of course, technology changes at such a pace now. There's things that you just couldn't have even envisaged that would exist probably 6 years ago when I started, really. So, it's just using the right technologies and listening to people out there and what they've got to say. Obviously you can go too far the other way, I think, where you're changing all the time for a small change. So you've got particularly with CRMs and things like that, changing them is obviously a massive time consuming investment, so you've got to do it right. But there's lots of sort of bolt-on technologies in our industry now that complement what we've already got in some ways. So like one of the things we took on board last year was a piece of kit that helps us stay in contact with our clients throughout the post sale process. So obviously with our industry, if I did a mortgage for you today and it's a 5-year fixed, we might have had a lovely 6-month journey or whatever for you buying a house or whatever, we're speaking to you all the time. But obviously traditionally with most firms, after that sort of has finished, we're probably not going to speak to you for 4.5 years till we start trying to sort of badger you 6 months before your remortgage is due, which is a long time to expect a client to stay in touch. So as I say, we've now sort of utilised technology on that will, in a nice way, stay in touch with clients over that period of various different touch points and everything. It's just makes that a lot more automated and hopefully helps with client retention and everything. So.
Yeah, great idea. And actually, the other thing I wanted to ask you about was also, what's been your biggest learnings as an employer since you started the business as well?
Yeah, from a staff point of view, I think particularly when you're a small business, I mean, obviously everyone won't be the same on this, but I've always tried to set my stall out that we're sort of almost a family style environment, where we all get on well, hopefully. The staff might say otherwise, but we look after people, and I think it's having, in a smaller team, definitely having that flexibility, where someone needs to nip out for whatever reason for half an hour, fine, no problems, and you just got the faith that it will go around and come around the other way when you need something, rather than being too sort of on point about the detail with that sort of stuff. So I think you try to build that sort of environment, really, I suppose, that it's everyone then pulls in the right direction. But I think sometimes with that as well, you need to know when to have the hard line as well. Probably the thing that I've learnt, and off the back of that, I would probably say that when you have probably taken on some people that haven't worked out, acting on that quite quickly rather than letting it go along and just, I think I've learned that, would probably say, in terms of when something's not going to work out, just to be decisive and make a decision on that quite quickly, rather than probably in the early days where you don't want to make those horrible decisions, maybe. So.
Yes, it's going to bite you if you don't make the decision in a timely manner.
Yeah, definitely. So it's so important, particularly when you're a customer facing business, as we are. Reputation and word of mouth is everything. So if you've got sort of one bad, maybe the harsh word, but someone that's not quite fitting in with the environment and the culture, it's best just to change that straight away, I think I've learned. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And actually, also, I believe you work with your wife as well.
So she obviously came on board when we started up. So Becky come from a sort of office management background anyway in her previous life, and obviously done the motherly thing of bringing up our kids for a number of years. So
Hmm.
when we set up, it was very much come and help me do it really, which was massively important for that sort of first 5 years. She was really heavily involved on a daily basis, and more recently has migrated to sort of more backseat role where it's more sort of accountancy and things in the background.
Yeah.
So not so much on the day to day, but yeah, it was really important early on to have that support really, because when there's not a lot of you, obviously, and having someone who's there, to talk and sound things off as well is really, really important. So.
Are there any challenges between having the relationship at work as opposed to the relationship you have as a wife and husband and a family man?
She told me what to do in both scenarios, so it's fine.
So you know who's in charge.
No, I'm joking. No, yes, no. In truth, yeah, I think it is a challenge, and you've both probably got to get the balance right between when you're in work mode and when you're in home mode.
Mm,
So yeah, that's probably why I say for 5 years she's heavily involved, and then in the last year, so the stuff that it does is less time sensitive and can be done away from the sort of day to day. So
yeah,
not as involved now, so we don't need to sort of be talking about Wyke Financial after sort of putting the kids in bed at night and stuff, because I'm
yeah.
just left to do the day to day now, and it's just a sort of twice monthly catch up now, really, just to touch on points. So it's that's been good, but I've listened to other people and they do that constantly, and they're working full time with people. So I think it's whatever works for you, but it's definitely something, if anyone's thinking about doing that, I think you've probably got to set some boundaries with it, when you should talk about work and when you shouldn't.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So what are your aspirations for Wyke Financial in the next 5 years?
Yeah, we've been talking about this a bit recently, actually, internally as well. So I think the thing we're trying to hopefully do is just get the last sort of finalized bits with the process right, so it's, as I say, completely seamless from start to finish from a customer journey point. And we're also doing a lot more in national sort of advertising as well, lead gen and things like that. So we're trying to sort of, I suppose, build a process and a system that will allow us to scale
Mm,
relatively easily, so we can go, okay, what's the ROI on these leads, and how many brokers do we need to then do that. So we're obviously at 5 brokers at the minute, and with our industry, you're always looking at anywhere from a sort of 3 to 5 month turnaround on a new bit of business,
yeah.
which doesn't always make it the easiest thing to quantify values and things with. So we sort of tend to look at it more as broker numbers,
Hmm.
and how we grow it that way, rather than the actual overall number, which
Yeah.
obviously is in the background somewhere. But in my head, I dial everything down to sort of broker numbers.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a 3-year plan that we'd probably like to try and be at 10 in the next 3 years in terms of number of brokers on the mortgage and residential side with
Yeah.
insurances and protection. And we're also looking to go into, we do this already, but sort of become more of a specialist in the commercial side as well.
Hmm.
So certainly the commercial insurance is something we've done for a long time. Done many, insurance cases for business owners, key man, obviously shareholder protection, relevant life, and all these things that any business owner, anyone listening who haven't got it, definitely needs to have a conversation with someone, whether that's someone else.
Urgently. Yeah.
Have a conversation, because you definitely need that. But yeah, it's a massive part to the industry, and it's not something that isn't always focused on, whether that's sort of a mortgage broker like ourselves, or maybe like an IFA firm who are sort of predominantly pensions investments. It kind of sits in between both worlds, and sometimes it can be kind of left as a bit of a result where no one really sort of specializes in it. So we've been doing a lot on that recently, just making sure we're always up to speed on the ins and outs of that. And starting to get some good traction on that now, to be fair. So.
Cool. So changing tack slightly,
Mhm.
what would you say to anyone thinking of going into business?
I think you've got to know why you want to do it in the first place.
Hmm.
There's got to be a reason, and that can't just be money,
Yeah.
because sometimes the money will be there, sometimes it won't. and also once you've got the money, then what's your desire to continue going? So there's got to
Yeah.
be a reason. For me, it was security and to an extent the sort of cliche of work-life balance at some point, but really sort of the security element for me, because I was a self-employed broker working for another firm, dealing with a local introducer. So that was obviously important, really, for me as to why we're doing it, but also wanted to really improve the client journey. So I was
Yeah.
working under someone else's model, absolutely fine, not a criticism of that at all, but I just had ideas that I thought we could, obviously do things, in my opinion, better.
Yeah.
So you got to have that driving aim, I think, to really push you forward. And I think you've got to be prepared that you've got to be aware that you're always going to be working. There is no day offs, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah. So very clear vision and very realistic about what's involved.
Yeah. 100%. So, but I think as well, a lot of people won't do it because they're scared of maybe those things, the financials, and they may be scared of the time and stuff. But it's the best thing I've ever done. So
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, who's the first person that comes to your mind when you think about success?
yeah, I, I've, I, I saw that in your pre-questions, and it got me thinking about it, actually, because I thought, well, it's an interesting one because it depends how you find success, doesn't it? If you're talking about it from a purely business perspective, monetary perspective, there's obviously all the obvious candidates that you could say, look at them, look what they did from a young age and built these businesses, blah, blah, blah. But I think you've also got to look at success as someone who probably at the end of their life looks back and goes, yeah, I've done everything that I wanted to do. So yeah, I'd probably say I've got various different role models throughout my life in that regard. Obviously, my parents, what they did for me when I was growing up and everything, in terms of giving me that solid foundation to go on and do something that I've done has been massively important. Other people that you meet, throughout your career that have done well and sort of inspired you in the first place to push on as well. So I think you meet different people, even sort of come away from it. I've got, people that are like coaches for various things, that do fitness things and stuff, and you look at their lives completely different to mine, but actually what they've gone on and achieved in that world, and their kind of happiness, if you like, in their environment is aspirational in a completely different way to just saying, oh, look at that person, they made loads of money, which isn't really what it necessarily is all about. So yeah, I appreciate that's a bit vague, but that's probably the best way I can
I was
answer
going to
that
say
one.
no specifics at all, but
Yeah.
I think the key thing to take away from that, it's more than about the money. I think actually what you've just described is the
Yeah.
money is simply the enabler to the other things that you want to achieve.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. Daniel, it's been lovely talking to you. If anyone wants to talk to you at Wyke Financial, how do they get in contact?
Yeah, so all the details are on the website. Yeah, so you can call, email, obviously LinkedIn's all over that as well. So yeah, website's wykefinancial.co.uk. So pretty much every contact details on there, and happy to chat to anyone.
Great. Daniel, thanks for talking to us today. It's been really interesting to learn about your journey, but also what you're doing inside the business as well. So thank you for that.
No problem at all. Thanks for your time.
Take care. Cheers.